Hello, and thank you for joining us for Peachjar's webinar series. Today we will be presenting why and which content is important for driving parent engagement. Today we have with us Arthur Wong, who will be presenting. Thank you for joining us today, Arthur.
Thanks, Rhea. Hey, everyone. Like I said, I am going to do a webinar on why and which content is important for driving parent engagement. A little background on me. I currently am a growth marketer at a company called Yifty, and a little about them is that they specialize in creating kind of a marketing platform for small businesses as well as franchisees. So it really ranges, but some of the things we do is, set businesses up with e-gift card programs, or we have, buy one, get one offers that we set them up with, or text-in campaigns. So we do a lot of different things. We are featured on Peachjar's marketing services, so go check us out if you have some time. But the agenda that I have here today is essentially why is content important, which types of content are important or which fit better for you, and how to build a good content strategy. So I'm going to go through all three of those topics, and please note that the webinar will be emailed out to you tomorrow so that you can listen to it again if you'd like. And also, I'm going to mention a lot of resources here that I personally use for my marketing campaigns, and they're throughout this PowerPoint. So we will send that out to you tomorrow. And of course, if you have questions, please hold it for the end of the webinar. We should have a good amount of time for Q&A session after. So I'm going to dive right into it. First topic is, hey, what is content marketing? All right, so I really like the definition that Marketo gave. They're actually a marketing platform that we use. I like the definition they gave about content marketing, which is, it's really a long-term strategy based on building a really strong relationship with your target audience by giving them really high-quality content that's really relevant to them, especially on a consistent basis. And I stress that second to last word, consistent. It's very important, just because all the content that you create for your target audience, who are, your prospective parents, is really meant to nurture them down a decision funnel. So if you aren't having constant touch points with these parents, it really devalues the content that you put out there, especially if it's, once every 3 months or once every 4 months. So you definitely want to be consistent on that front. On the right-hand side, you can actually see some of the forms of content that you as schools and districts would be focused on, like blogs, videos, infographics, newsletters, case studies, are all ones that I see schools and districts utilize a lot. An example of how content would work for, or a form of content for you guys would be essentially, maybe a video about what your district does, or a blog about how, new technology in your classroom has driven X% in higher scores. So those are different types of content, and I mean, it's limitless, right? There's tons of difference of content. It's just how you essentially lay it out there and how you distribute it. And the main focus of your content strategy should always center around the needs of your current and prospective parents, right? So once you've identified these parents' needs, information can be presented in a ton of different ways, and I'll go through a couple of those ways as well. But the next question is, why is content marketing integral to, the growth of your district? And you hear the phrase a lot, content is king, but why? Right, I'm going to dive into why. And how I like to really think of it is, content is really the fuel for all of your marketing campaigns. So say you want to send an email to a prospective parent about, why your school is the best choice for them. You need some sort of content there, whether it's a case study or a video that you're creating for them. You really need that fuel to give people a reason to latch onto your marketing campaigns. So over time, marketers really come to rely on tailored content that's specific for that audience, and it engages them a lot more as well. So today, I mean, in today's landscape, consumers are bombarded with, tons of ads. I'm sure you guys seen this as well. Tons of ads, tons of messages, essentially more than ever before. So the ability to use traditional channels is somewhat diluted, like radio, TV ads. Not only is it expensive, it just doesn't tailor to the right audience. So with content marketing, you have the opportunity here to resonate a lot better with your audience, simply because it's carefully tailored to their needs and interests. How I like to think of it is it's a great way to convey your district or school's personality and offerings without being overly promotional, which can go a long way, especially when you build trust among these parents and among your audience. Right? And you can kind of see the statistic here is that content marketing costs 62% less than traditional marketing, and actually generates 3 times as many leads. So not only are you not spending as much, you're generating more interest, you're generating more leads when you use content strategies. So a couple of advantages here is that you increase your district awareness. So as parents search the web for answers to their questions like, which school has the best graduation rates and solutions to their problems, your district continues to show up the more you generate content. Also, you increase your district preference, right? Content marketing really helps establish your district as, a thought leader, right? Especially if you have meaningful articles, blog posts that really exemplifies yourself as someone who knows the space, which can really strengthen your relationship with these parents. And of course, you have a great reach at lower cost. Like it says in the graphic, content marketing is essentially one of the cheapest forms of communicating with your audience. And the days of traditional ads like radio, TV, which can cost thousands of dollars, aren't as trackable and essentially in the rearview mirror nowadays. So now I want to get into, what types of content marketing are important, simply because there's tons of different types out there. I want to touch on the ones that I feel like you as schools and districts would want to focus on. But to answer this question, essentially they're all important. The type of content that your district finds important may not necessarily be the choice for, another district, right? You have to choose what type of content you'll utilize based on what you're trying to accomplish. And what stage, your parent is at in a decision-making funnel. And the great thing about, having all these types of different content is that it can help your district reach parents, whether they haven't heard of your district or even when they're trying to choose between you and another school, you have kind of a database of content to send these parents no matter what stage they're at. So that's really the idea of building a content database, is that you have that in your back pocket to use. And now I want to get into, there's a couple of types of content strategies that, essentially a lot of companies, a lot of businesses use to boost their marketing campaigns. I want to touch on the really popular ones that I've seen have a lot of impact. First one is going to be social media, simply because here there's a huge opportunity to reach a wide audience, 2 billion social media users worldwide, a lot of them parents that are on Facebook. If you can generate quality content on, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever your social media platforms that you have currently that you're utilizing, if you can generate quality content to your followers and get them to like or share or, show a friend, it's a huge source of inbound traffic you're getting there just because the reach is so wide. And the easiest way to think about the relationship between content marketing and social media is that they really need each other to be successful. So listening to your parents, listening to your audience who are your parents, to understand what they care about is essential so that you can create content that they'll find engaging and relevant. And a good way that I do this here at Yifty is that I really like to use Facebook Insights. As long as you have a page on Facebook, you'll be able to see these stats as well as Twitter Analytics. So these are 2 tools I use. Facebook Insights is valuable for me simply because I can see what actions that my audience takes on my page. Are they scrolling through? Are they liking certain posts? Which posts specifically are they sharing? You can actually see the engagement and reach on past posts as well. So you can kind of go through your database of, I've posted on social media 10 times. What did parents love about this specific post? Why did they share it so many more times than this other post? And you can kind of get a good feel of, what your parents like to read about. Second thing here is that distributing content is essential by using social media. Here is that you have a lot of social media channels here, and all of them tell you what the expected reach is. And you already kind of know where your parents are on social media. A lot of them on Facebook primarily, some on Twitter, but mainly it's going to be through Facebook. And social media content doesn't always have to necessarily sell something. You see a lot of people post on Facebook, hey, check out this offer, I'll give you 10% off. So it doesn't always have to sell something. It can be educational as well, right? It can be a resource for parents to use, best practices for them to read. These type of posts are actually the ones that get the most engagement as well, because they're great topics of discussion. Next, I want to get into some strategy here. The key to really using social media by engaging your audience is by using really useful, relevant material like a social media post calendar. And a really great tool for this is Hootsuite. I'll mention it at the end again, but they actually lay out a calendar for you so that you can time your social media posts, whether it's weekly or every 3 days. They do a great job of scheduling it out for you so that you don't have to have a mental schedule in your head of, hey, I have to post on Monday, I have to post on Wednesday. So they actually take care of that for you. But the key here is to really find out what your audience likes. This is actually called social listening, where I use Facebook, Twitter analytics to find out, hey, what does my audience really like to read, and how can I generate more content like that to drive more engagement? Second tip here is find the best social platform to distribute. One platform for your district might not necessarily be as effective for another district. So you want to, once again, use those insights to find out where your audience hangs out and find the best platform to distribute your content. And then third is, once again, stay active. You need to be consistent, especially on social media, just because there's so many posts going out daily, weekly, monthly, that you have to stay top of mind. So what we do here is that we have a schedule of posting at least once a week. That's the bare minimum that we do, just because we don't want to get lost in the background. So you want to maintain an active posting schedule there as well. So though that's social media, I want to dive into blog posts now. And a great tool for this that I use, and you can see that in the bottom, is WordPress. So WordPress is actually a free tool, and it's great because it's essentially a drag and drop tool that allows you to format, design your blog however you see fit, and it's really easy to use. I actually figured out how to use it in a couple weeks and made our website off of that as well as our blog. So that's a tool that I definitely recommend. But how I like to think of blog posts and blogging in general, if your analogy here is like, blogging is like chocolate or beer, depending on your point of view. So more is often better. Unlike a standard, homepage on your website where content is generally static on your homepage, where you don't have to update it every day just because people are always going there and they expect to see your homepage relatively the same. However, a good blog really needs to be updated frequently and follow an editorial planner schedule. So the more you publish on your blog, essentially the more leads you'll attract and improve your search engine ranking. And I'll go through that a bit more in detail. But some interesting statistics on blogging. People that blog once or twice per month actually generate 70% more leads than those that don't blog at all. Another one here is that companies increase blogging from 3 to 5 times a month to 6 to 8 times a month, almost double their leads. So there's definitely a correlation there, but don't let these stats deter you. Just because for those that are barely starting out, like we were not too long ago, we aim for publishing blogs at least twice a month. And then from there, you can ramp up depending on the traffic that you're getting, the traction people are seeing on your blog post, whether they're responding. And ultimately, the key here is to really be persistent. You have to make small, consistent actions over time, like, hey, why didn't this blog post get as much traction as this one? Was my headline off? Did I not entice them enough? So you always want to keep a calendar or a schedule there so you know what you posted and the results of that post. And over time, like we have, it's incremental and it's slow, but we've definitely seen an increase in our blog traffic over time. And then some best practices here is that you want to make sure that your blog is on your website. I see a lot of people keep their blogs separate. For example, let's say I'm using Panera Bread as an example, where they have, Panera Bread's blog under one domain. So, for example, their blog could be panerabread.com/blog. That's the correct way to do it. I would recommend that you always keep it under one domain, because if you separate it out, like blog.panerabread.com, for example, you're actually separating the domains so that all the links that you're getting to that blog or your blog domain is essentially wasted if it's split up, because you always want to make sure that your website is as strong as possible in terms of getting links there. So you always want to keep it under one domain. So, for example, ours is yifty.com/blog. I would never recommend you to have blog.yifty.com, just because you're really separating out where all your links are going to, essentially. Second tip here is that in order to drive, targeted traffic to your blog and ultimately your website, you want to create content that your parents will find helpful and interesting. So create content that acts as a resource, right? Especially for parents. They love to read resources, best practices. An example is, 5 ways to boost your kids' grades. So simple things like that, but you want to create it especially for them. And then, of course, long-form versus short-form blog posts. You can see from the graphic on the left, actually, that since 2014, length of blog posts has been growing. And essentially, the more, of course, write it in the flow of what you're trying to put out there, but the more content that you have in a blog post, the more words, the higher your ranking will be on Google search engines as well. So there's definitely a correlation there. And of course, you provide more information in a long-form blog post, and from this statistic too, you actually drive a lot more leads when you write a long-form blog post. And then the last tip here I have for blogs is repurpose your blog content. So something that we did here is that we had a really long blog post on, 7 tips and trends, 7 marketing tips and trends for 2017. And it was a very long blog post. It essentially took up half our page. So what did we do with that is that we separated out into, 2 tips we sent through an email campaign. Another 2 tips we did through social media. Another 3 tips we did through our newsletter and our blog. So you have to repurpose your blog content just because it's really effective, and you get to use your content over time a lot more. And this is helpful, especially for districts with small teams, just because it helps save a lot of time. Instead of spending your time, writing up a new blog or a new best practices sheet, you can use your old content and rephrase it or send it through a different channel. So that's one of my favorite tactics, and we do that every time we have a blog post. So that's going to be blogging. I want to dive into email marketing just because this is one of the most important forms of content out there. Great statistic here is that 87% of parents prefer email as a primary form of communication. And this is huge, especially since your target audience are parents. Email is going to be the most effective way to get a hold of them. First tip here is always personalize with a first name and include a call to action that links back to your website. So you can see in this graphic from UNICEF here Dear friend, this in a lot of email platforms, the one I recommend is actually Mailchimp. In a lot of these platforms, you can actually, as long as you have that parent's first name, you can actually set it up to be that you can swap this word friend here for your parents' first names. And all you have to do is upload your list with an email and a first name, and that template will actually plug in their first name here. So you always want to personalize, because another interesting statistic is that subject lines personalized with the recipient's first name actually can lift open rates by 20%. So that's huge. And it's just because people are so used to seeing generic email titles and email titles that, try to sell you something. When you personalize it and make it a personal outreach, a personal touch, people are a lot more responsive. So also you want to include a call to action. UNICEF does a great job here of donate now. Whatever your call to action is, you always want to be testing this. You want to see, does donate now work better, or does, take me here work better? People respond to different things, even the color of the button. Red, is it alarming to them? Should I change it to green? So always include a call to action, and always test that call to action and make sure people are not thrown off by, something small. So second tip here is include a video if you have one. Videos can actually increase click-throughs by 200 to 300%. More on this later, but it's simply because video is so interactive. It's the thing that can go viral the quickest as well. And it makes, there's also an emotional attachment to videos. So you always want to include a video if you have access to one. And like I said, Mailchimp is actually the platform that we use here at Yifty. They're a free email marketing platform for contacts, for 2,000 or less contacts. So if you have less than 2,000, definitely recommend them. They have a lot of templates laid out for you and make it very easy to design, and you can schedule your campaigns for later as well. So if you're looking for an email marketing tool, Mailchimp is a great one. All right, so now I want to go through a couple of best practices, and you can see in this infographic here, I'll walk through step by step of how we actually get our emails out there. But first is going to be, you want to define, so what this means is, what's the purpose of this campaign? What am I trying to accomplish? Yeah, so you always want to have that in the back of your mind, because the content or the words or everything that you put into the email is going to be focused around what you're trying to accomplish here. Second is always be testing. What we really like to do is segment our customer base, just because there's a lot of different verticals that we work with, like restaurants and spas and gyms. So if you send one generic template out to all three of those verticals, they don't respond as well. So if you have a particular segment, like for schools and districts, location is going to be a key one, right? So you want to segment by location. Also, mobile versus desktop, right? You have to keep in mind that people are going to be viewing my emails through a phone. How do I make sure that they're viewing my emails the right way? So always be testing. Make sure you have great templates, a segmented list before you send out. Third is actually sending the email. So here is what we look at is, when is the best time to send an email, right? So that question always gets brought up a lot is, when should I send this email out? For us, the highest open rates that we've seen is anywhere from 8 to 11 a.m. And that's just because at that time, a lot of people are getting into work or getting into the flow of the day, and before they start all that, they want to go through their email and see what's in their inbox. So for us, we've found really good success by emailing out around that 8 to 11 time, but it's different for everyone. So once again, test, see which times work best for you, and consistently send out at that time. Next is going to be measure. So here is, how did the audience respond to that email? What was my open rate? I know standard email open rates are about 20%, 20 to 25%. What was my click-through rate? What did the recipient do when they got this email? So what I like to do is after every email campaign, I'll export the results, I'll compare it to all my past campaigns, and I really like to do an A/B test. So what this is you create 2 emails, essentially the same, but you have a couple different things, like maybe you change the headline on one of them as well as the call to action. And you send both of them out 50-50 to your audience and see which one gets a higher open rate or click rate. And once again, Mailchimp allows you to do this very easily, so you can run campaigns side by side to see which one did better. And then the last thing is, of course, report. Track all your results. Make sure you have a database of all the emails you've done and which ones performed well. All right. So that's going to be email marketing. Now I want to touch on video. This is huge just because it's one of the fastest growing content marketing strategies out there right now. And simply it just converts more customers all in all. An interesting stat here is that 75% of all internet traffic in 2017 will be video. So a lot of consumption there. And the 3 most effective types of video content are going to be, customer testimonials, explainer or tutorial videos, and demos. And it makes sense really, because if you were to write out in text, customer testimonials or a long description of how your district functions or what your district has to offer, it's going to be too much reading for these people. They're not going to want to spend the time to read through, 3 whole paragraphs of what you do. So the best way to convey that message is really through a video. And right here is that 71% of marketers say that video conversion rates consistently outperform other forms of marketing content. So this is huge, especially if you're trying to get these parents to take an action. I definitely recommend video. Once again, there's a certain emotional attachment here, and you can even see it in this Boys and Girls Club with this message, is that videos tend to respond a lot better. You get a lot better engagement rate, and of course, videos tend to go viral. So how can videos boost your content strategy? First is that it promotes brand recall. So 80% of customers remember a video they've watched in the last month. Biggest strength with videos too is that it's very visual, very auditory. So it's a lot easier to remember than text-based content, right? Also, it can boost your site's ranking on Google, Bing, or Yahoo. So 65% of decision makers visit a website after viewing a video. So they'll visit that company or that brand's website after viewing a video from them. And that's huge, especially since by posting a video out there, you're already getting a lot of eyeballs to that video, because adding a video to your website actually increases the chance of a front page Google result by up to 53 times. So that's a huge statistic there. So if you're trying to get your video up on Google, you have a great chance of doing that by making a really targeted video, and as long as you have kind of a right transcript and the right keywords, you have a huge chance on getting on these search engines. Third here is that video content performs well on all devices. Like I was mentioning earlier, emails, especially if you don't tailor it specifically for mobile or specifically for desktop, has a chance of getting viewed in a very distorted way. Same goes for websites. It took a really long time for us to get ours up and running just because we finished the desktop side, but we failed to realize that, hey, there's essentially a 40% of our audience actually views our website on mobile, so we have to optimize for that as well. But for video, I mean, whether you're viewing it on your cell phone or on a laptop or an iPad or a desktop, it all looks the same. It's the same video player, so it works well on essentially everything. And then last tip here is that, once again, videos are easily shareable. You see nowadays on YouTube how easy it is to essentially click a button, send a link to a friend, or click a button, copy and paste some sort of code, and you get that video on your website. So it's so easily shareable nowadays and has the biggest chance for virality. So video content, definitely wanted to touch on that just because in 2017, it's going to be a huge source of content marketing. One of the last things I did want to mention here, although this is not a form of content, I did want to talk about search engine optimization just because it's one of the main ways your content is distributed, and you always want to be aware of how your content is affecting your ranking on Google or Yahoo or Bing. So simple definition right here is, essentially the process of improving your ranking in search engines in order to get more people to your website. So example that we have here is, someone or a parent essentially types in best school district in Tacoma, Washington. You want to make sure you're, on the front page or in some of these articles that they're mentioning here. So by optimizing your website, essentially what you're doing is trying to get a higher ranking or trying to get to the #1 spot. Why this is important is because the rankings on Google, especially numbers 1, 2, and 3, get more than 60% of the clicks by prospective parents. So after the third result that they see, they hardly go lower than 3 to get the results. So you always want to optimize so that you're 1, 2, or 3. Although it does get difficult, I'm going to give you some tips on what Google, Bing, and Yahoo looks for when they rank your page or your website. So 3 factors that they rank on is going to be expertise. So that's essentially how accurate is your information. They're going to rank on authority, which is what are the links that are coming back to your website. And of course, are they from reputable sources? And then the third thing is going to be trust, is what actions do people take when they land on your website? Or what actions do they take when they land on your blog? Do they go through and read the whole thing? Do they subscribe to your newsletter? Or do they simply land on your blog and click the X button? So all 3 of those things are what Google looks at. So essentially what you want to do, especially for expertise, is how accurate your information is you want to be as clear and as essentially you don't want to have any false information, just because what Google will do is it'll scan all the other results that are similar to yours and see if they are in line, see if your information differentiates from theirs, how much does it differentiate. So for example, a good example that I had is, let's say you run a blog about, healthy foods, and you have an article that lists cookies, pizzas as healthy foods. Essentially, Google will look at that content that's similar to yours and see if the content you put out there is accurate. So they're seeing, kale and salad are all healthy foods, and they come to your site and see it's pizza and burgers. That won't help your ranking at all. You want to make sure you have accurate information on there. Second tip here, authority. So this is essentially you want to get links, especially on blog posts. You always want to get good links from reputable sources. So for example, if you get a link from a site that's been made yesterday, it's not going to help your search engine ranking at all. However, if you get a link from someone, let's say like the Wall Street Journal, that's huge. That's going to rise your blog post a lot more than the other links that you're getting. So if you are going to get links, get it from good sources. And then trust is the last one. So this is, what are they doing when they get to your blog? Essentially, you want to create a headline and content that's going to make them read the whole blog post, essentially take an action on your web page, maybe even navigate to your homepage after they read. So you always want to optimize for engaging content that won't let people leave right away or bounce right away. And some good tools for this, I didn't have it on this PowerPoint, but what I use is Moz, so that's spelled M-O-Z, and WordStream. These are good tools for checking where certain pages of your district or school rank on Google or Yahoo or Bing. So it'll give you what your ranking is, what links you have going to your pages, and it'll give you a pretty good overview on what you need to improve in order to rise in the rankings. So once again, that's going to be WordStream and Moz, M-O-Z. Those are good tools for you to check your rankings and see how you're doing. And then to wrap it up, creating a content process. So in order to really excel in really content marketing initiatives, you need a plan that really reflects what you're trying to do or reflect your goals. So an understanding of the parents that you're trying to target's top concerns, noticing their top concerns, content that really addresses these concerns, and a calendar for developing content on an ongoing basis. So those are the three most essential things. And the steps that we take here is essentially creating a database or a schedule, and deciding where you're going to document your content is the first step. So for us, we use Google Sheets. It's online. Everyone can edit it. You can invite certain people to edit it. So if you're working with a team, it's very easy to use. Other options are, Excel sheet, or there's a WordPress free plugin. Especially if you have your blog on WordPress, there's a really good plugin called Editorial Calendar. So check that out, and it'll give you kind of a layout on, everything that you do in terms of your content process. Second step, create customer personas. A lot of you districts and schools already have this down. Your target is going to be parents. But why you want to create a persona is because you need to determine what type of content you need. You want to set the tone and style to be directly to that audience. And most important thing here, by creating these personas, you get a really good list of target topics that you want to write about. So you always have content in the back of your mind of, hey, what do I think parents will be interested in reading in? By creating these personas, you kind of have an insight on their mind of what they want to read, and you have kind of a path to go down. And third is do your homework. I mean, like I said, you want to be able to find out pain points of your parents, right? You want to do surveys. A really good tool here is SurveyMonkey, where I wanted a bit more insight on our merchant base and what features they wanted next, or what they wanted to see next. So sending out a survey, asking your prospective parents on, what would you like to read next? I mean, what do you struggle with? Things like that are really going to help you in terms of creating content, just because you're essentially asking the reader, hey, what do you want next? And then you can base it off of that. And then I like to map out my registration stages. Now that I have kind of a persona in mind, I really like to map out like a buying journey, so that I know like what objections do they hit, what's the process that this audience member goes through when they're considering our service here, and make sure I develop a good content strategy that speaks directly to parents, right? And then the last thing is, of course, create content, especially if you're going to be targeting and segmenting. You want to target content geared towards that audience's persona, so you get the maximum engagement there. But that's how we essentially create our content process here. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'm going to pass it off to Rhea now.
All right, everybody, any questions? Okay, so I have one. As a beginner to producing content, where do you think is the best place to start?
That's a great question. For me personally, we're similar boat. We really didn't have a lot of content going out. Best thing for me was that we did have a WordPress site. So essentially what I did was I would make constant blog posts. And like I mentioned, let me go back to this tool for you. This tool, WordPress, is going to be where you're going to be able to kind of create a structure for your blog. So you can set up a domain there, and then the best tool, or one of the best tools, sorry, I'm trying to find it here. Yeah, the Editorial Calendar is great. It'll help you push your blog a bit further. But in terms of getting a start, essentially what I did was I figured out what our merchant base liked to read through a survey, and then I actually just started creating material on our blog post geared towards what that merchant wanted to read. So that's where we started. We started off at about one blog post every 2 weeks, and now we're at about one a week, even two a week. So after you get those initial blog posts out there, we started to ramp it up and saw a lot of great results.
All right, next question. How often should I post to Facebook and Twitter? Awesome.
Yeah, great question. So it really depends. I mean, my recommendation is to go onto your Facebook Insights. It's going to be one of the tabs at the top. And even, I believe it's Facebook Insights or Audience Insights. That's where you're going to be able to see your engagement with those prospective parents. But our baseline here is we have to post at least once a week, just because you want to make sure you're at the forefront of their minds. So I recommend at the bare minimum at least once a week, especially if you have a small team. If not, if you have a bigger team, I recommend even more.
Okay, next question. Who can help me produce content? I will actually take this one. So a lot of school districts can work with, different people within the school district that enjoy producing that content. For example, teachers, coaches. You could work with anybody at the school level, administration, anybody who's interested in either blogging or writing white papers for you, or social media content is great. You'll probably be surprised how many people would be willing to pitch in. So think outside the box as far as, it doesn't have to be all one person creating content, and actually ideally it is multiple different people, so you have different voices speaking for your district. And then as a follow-up, I have another question about saying that many of our teachers blog. As a district, do you think that we should be utilizing that for anything? And based on what I just said, absolutely. Definitely read through the blog content that they're producing. As long as you believe that it aligns with what you believe as a school district, it's great content to share on your social media. If appropriate, it could even be a blog that you link to from their school website if they're interested in posting on a regular basis. Right. Next question. One more. Where do you suggest we store our videos? Where's the best place to put those? Arthur? Hello? Well, YouTube is a great place to store those videos. You can also use Vimeo. If you are going to social media, the best way is to actually upload the video itself, so it plays as they're scrolling through their news feed. Same with your email. It's best to embed it into the email itself. Well, that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful day.